Let's talk about something most men overlook: the deep emotional yearning women have for a sense of safety. And not the kind of safety that's tied to locks on doors or how strong your arms are. I'm talking about emotional safety. A space where she can breathe, soften, and stop performing. A space where her guard doesn't have to be up. The man she longs for, silently and often unconsciously, is the one who knows how to create this space without suffocating her. Not with control, not with power plays, but with grounded presence. You see, women are intuitive by nature. They're constantly picking up on your tone, your micro-expressions, the way you respond when they show vulnerability. When she tells you something that exposes her heart, she's not only watching how you respond with your words, she's reading how you hold that space emotionally. Do you tense up? Do you try to fix it? Do you interrupt her process with advice she didn't ask for? Or do you sit with her, breathe, and show her that her emotions are valid, even when they don't make sense to you? The man who offers emotional safety doesn't have to agree with her every time. That's not what she's looking for. She doesn't want a yes man. She wants a man who doesn't flinch when she expresses her truth. A man who can remain calm and open even when the emotional waters get turbulent. That kind of emotional containment, it's magnetic, it's rare, and it's unforgettable. But here's where most men get it wrong. They confuse control with safety. They think telling her what to do, who to talk to, how to behave is what protection looks like. It's not. That's insecurity wrapped in dominance. The woman who feels emotionally safe doesn't feel managed. She feels free. She feels understood without needing to explain herself over and over again. And in that freedom, she begins to trust you. She begins to lean in, and that's when the depth of her love truly awakens. Psychologically, this taps into one of the deepest human needs, the need to be seen and accepted. For women, especially in romantic dynamics, the ability to be emotionally vulnerable without fear of being judged or minimized is crucial. If you can give her that, not once, but consistently, you become more than a man. You become a sanctuary. So when you wonder why she's drawn to one man over another, why she keeps going back in her mind to that one guy who maybe wasn't even the most handsome or wealthy, it's likely because he gave her that feeling, that unspoken sense of, I'm safe here. That's what she longs for. Not in loud declarations, but in quiet moments of emotional steadiness. Remember, your ability to stay grounded when she's unraveling is not just emotional maturity, it's power. Quiet, masculine, irresistible power. If there's one trait that quietly commands respect and desire, not just from women, but from the world, it's a man who knows exactly who he is. This kind of man doesn't perform. He doesn't posture. He doesn't chase approval, whether it's from women, friends, or strangers online. He moves with a steady rhythm that says, I know where I'm going, and I don't need you to validate the path. And that is magnetic. A woman may not articulate it in these exact terms, but she feels it. The man who is deeply rooted in his identity gives off a different energy. He's not trying to impress her. He's living in alignment. His actions are not shaped by the reactions of others. He doesn't say what he thinks she wants to hear. He speaks his truth, not to be provocative, but because it's who he is. There's a profound psychological reason why women are drawn to this type of man. Because in him they find stability, not just externally, but emotionally. He becomes a mirror for her own self-trust. In a world that constantly tells women to shrink, to doubt, to second-guess, being with a man who is solid in himself gives her the rare permission to stop questioning herself, too. But let's be clear, self-assured doesn't mean arrogant. It doesn't mean emotionally unavailable or unwilling to grow. In fact, a man who truly knows who he is will still evolve, but not at the cost of his identity. He's flexible, not flimsy. He listens, but he doesn't compromise his values to keep the peace. He can stand alone. And that's exactly what makes others want to stand with him. In philosophical terms, this man is what the Greeks called autarkies, self-sufficient, not in the sense of being isolated, but whole within himself. He isn't looking for a woman to complete him. He invites her into a life that's already rich with meaning. And she silently longs for that. Because most men she meets are still trying to figure out who they are, molding themselves to whatever they think will win her over. But the man who stands as he is, who leads with essence instead of ego, that man becomes unforgettable. And here's the truth. When you know who you are, you stop chasing people. You start attracting what's aligned with you. And the woman who is meant for you, the one who's also done the work, will see you. She won't just like you, she'll respect you. And that respect becomes the foundation of something deeper than charm or chemistry. So the question is, are you performing or are you living in your truth? Because the man who stops performing is the man who starts leading. And when you lead from identity, not image, she doesn't just notice, she remembers. There's something deeply powerful about a man who listens, not just hears, but listens. And I don't mean the kind of passive listening where you're nodding while waiting to speak. I'm talking about full presence, the kind of listening where a woman feels seen, not just observed, where she feels safe to unfold, not judged or fixed. That kind of presence, that's emotional intelligence at its highest form. And it's one of the most silently seductive traits a man can embody. Why? Because it's rare in a world of noise, of constant notifications, scrolling, interruptions, and opinions. Finding someone who's actually tuned in, who offers their attention like it's sacred, is almost revolutionary. And for a woman, especially one who's constantly in spaces where she has to be on, that kind of refuge becomes irresistible. She may not say it aloud, but when you offer her your full emotional presence, she feels like she can finally exhale. This goes beyond being a good listener or a supportive partner. Emotional intelligence is about sensing beyond the words. It's about being aware of tone, body language, energy shifts, and responding with care, not ego. It's about knowing when to hold space and when to speak life. And perhaps most importantly, it's about managing your own emotions, not outsourcing your peace to her reactions. When a man demonstrates this kind of grounded presence, a woman's nervous system begins to relax. That's science. The human brain, particularly the amygdala, is constantly scanning for safety. And when a woman senses she's in the company of someone emotionally steady, someone who's not reactive, not defensive, not dismissive, her body responds. She opens. Not because she's trying to win you over, but because she feels free to simply be. And here's the deeper truth. Emotional intelligence isn't just attractive. It's foundational. Because real intimacy isn't built in the high moments, it's built in the quiet spaces, the pauses, the way you respond when she's vulnerable, the way you hold her anger without collapsing into yours, the way you choose curiosity over control. These are the silent moments where a woman decides, consciously or unconsciously, whether you're the kind of man she can trust with her heart. This is the art most men overlook. They chase the big gestures, the grand pursuits, the strategies. But it's your emotional mastery that defines whether she stays, whether she feels safe, whether she sees you as the rare kind of man who can hold her complexity with strength, not fear. So if you want to be the man she silently longs for, master presence, not performance, not perfection, presence. Because when she knows she's heard, she begins to trust. And when she trusts, she loves without fear. Master presence. And you won't need to ask if she's drawn to you. Her heart will already know. There's a profound difference between a man who desires attention and a man who commands respect. And women, often silently, are deeply drawn to the latter. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you embody. It comes from the way you move, the way you speak, the way you carry your values, even when no one's watching. When a man walks in alignment with his principles, when he refuses to bend for convenience or approval, it leaves a powerful imprint on a woman's psyche. She may not articulate it, but she feels it, and it pulls her closer. Why does this matter so much? Because at her core, a woman wants to feel secure, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. She wants to know that the man in front of her has a spine, not arrogance disguised as confidence, but inner strength grounded in clarity. This kind of man doesn't just say what he believes, he lives it. He honors his word, not for applause, but because his integrity won't allow him to do otherwise. And that consistency builds a trust that doesn't need constant reassurance. Women are intuitive by nature. They don't just listen to what you say, they observe what you tolerate, how you react under pressure, what your silence means when things get uncomfortable. And the moment she senses that your character is negotiable depending on who's watching or what's at stake, she may still smile, she may still nod, but something inside her begins to withdraw. She can't fully surrender her heart to a man she can't fully respect. On the flip side, when a woman sees that you have boundaries, that you protect your peace, that you don't just speak truth but stand in it, something ignites because that kind of man represents safety, not control. He is a rock in a world of shifting sands. She knows that even when life tests you, and it will, you won't lose yourself trying to please or prove. And in that quiet strength, she finds a rare kind of freedom, the freedom to be fully feminine without fear of being led astray. Now let's be clear, commanding respect is not about being dominant or emotionally rigid. In fact, true strength lies in your ability to be both firm and compassionate, to be both unshakable and understanding. That balance is what separates the performative male from the grounded man. It's what allows a woman to see you not just as a partner, but as a leader. Not in the hierarchical sense, but in the sense that she can trust you to lead yourself first. So, if you want to be the kind of man she silently longs for, stop chasing validation and start cultivating self-respect. Because when you respect yourself deeply, the world, and the woman who's truly meant for you, will follow suit. Live as a man who walks in truth, and you won't need to convince anyone of your worth. It will speak long before you do. There's something profoundly magnetic about a man who is emotionally present, a man who doesn't run from depth, who doesn't fumble or freeze when the conversation turns raw or vulnerable. In a world where many still confuse emotional availability with weakness, this kind of man is rare. And because he is rare, women are drawn to him, often silently, instinctively, not because he has all the answers, but because he knows how to stay in the discomfort, stay in the truth, stay when it matters most. You see, emotional presence isn't about being overly expressive or dramatically open. It's about being fully there, not distracted, not performative, but grounded. When a woman is speaking to you, whether she's excited, confused, or overwhelmed, she can feel if your mind is halfway across the room. She can sense whether you're listening to respond or listening to understand. And when she sees a man who meets her in that moment with full attention, who holds space without trying to fix her or escape her feelings, that's when her walls start to come down. Because for her, that presence signals safety. This is the art of attunement. And it's not something you fake. It's cultivated through self-awareness and emotional discipline. A man who is emotionally present has done the inner work. He's confronted his own shadows, his fears, his childhood programming. He understands that silence can be healing, that eye contact is more than a formality, and that patience isn't passivity. It's power held in reserve. That's what makes his presence so impactful. It doesn't demand attention. It invites trust. Women remember how you make them feel, and not just in the good times, especially when they're at their most uncertain or raw. If she feels dismissed, rushed, or unheard, she may stay physically present but emotionally retreat. But if you're the man who can sit with her in the chaos without trying to silence it, who simply sees her, that stays with her. That anchors her in a way that surface charm or status never could. It's ironic, isn't it? Many men chase love by showcasing power, but the kind of power that truly captivates a woman is subtle. It's in your ability to be steady in her storm, to be open without crumbling, to be responsive without needing control. If you want to be unforgettable, not just liked, but felt, learn how to show up emotionally. Practice stillness when you want to run. Choose empathy when it's easier to judge. Let her know, without words, that she is seen, not for who she should be, but for who she is. In the end, presence is not about perfection. It's about the willingness to be real, and in a world of distractions and distance, nothing speaks louder than that. There's something quietly powerful about a man who knows how to lead with restraint, who can guide without domination, who understands the weight of his influence but never abuses it. It's not about being the loudest in the room or the most assertive in every moment. It's about self-mastery, the ability to lead not just in public, but in the subtle, often invisible spaces, emotionally, mentally, and relationally. That is the art women long for, often without even realizing it at first. Because true leadership, the kind that earns devotion rather than demands compliance, begins with a man who governs himself. Self-mastery is the foundation of lasting respect. It's what allows a man to remain calm when others are chaotic. It's what allows him to pause before reacting, to choose values over impulses. And that kind of inner control is incredibly attractive, not just physically, but energetically. It sends a signal that you are trustworthy, consistent, dependable. Not perfect, but stable. And in a world that often feels uncertain, that kind of consistency feels like a safe harbor. What many men don't realize is that leadership in relationships isn't about taking over. It's about creating a container, a space where a woman can feel free and held at the same time. It's leading in the sense of initiating growth, encouraging honesty, maintaining emotional clarity. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to challenge and when to support. A man who has mastered himself does not compete with his partner's energy. He complements it. He doesn't need to control her to feel powerful. His power is already rooted in who he is, not what he can dominate. There's also a deeper spiritual layer to this, because women, whether consciously or subconsciously, are drawn to a man who gives direction without ego, who can say, "Follow me," not because he needs to be admired, but because he's already walking a meaningful path. When a man lives with purpose, when he is clear on his values and unshaken by trends, he becomes a magnet. Not because he's flashy, but because he's anchored. This kind of man doesn't sway easily. He doesn't crumble under criticism or inflate with praise. And that emotional equilibrium allows the woman in his life to feel a deeper sense of trust and connection. She doesn't have to constantly second-guess his intentions or carry the weight of emotional leadership herself. He leads by example, through integrity, through consistency, through action. So if you want to be the kind of man women silently long for, start with yourself. Not by seeking to impress her, but by becoming someone who impresses himself. Someone who leads not from insecurity, but from a place of inner alignment. Because when a woman sees that a man can lead his own life with clarity, strength, and humility, she'll follow, not because she's told to, but because she feels safe enough to.